Welcome and good morning to the second day of the Georgetown Literary Festival. Thank you for being with us here this morning, and it is really a great privilege for us to welcome to the stage today the wonderful Veeraporn. Please, your last name, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Nitiprapha? Nitiprapha, okay, not bad. But she is really quite a marvel of Thai literature who sort of burst onto the scene a few years ago with an incredible novel, and which is now two novels that have been translated. Yes, here they are. Both novels were translated by Kong Rithdee, and we're also very privileged to have her fabulous translator here to be in conversation with Veeraporn. And this conversation will be moderated by the brilliant Duong, who some of you might have seen yesterday. So please, without further ado, please welcome to the stage Veeraporn, Kong Rithdee, and Duong.
Thank you so much, Pauline. Yeah, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Pauline and Adriana and the organizational team of Georgetown Literature Festival for inviting all three of us and making this opportunity possible to have connection between Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Southeast Asian literature to have this dialogue together. And it's my greatest pleasure today to moderate a session titled, where's the title? The Labyrinth of Memories, with the esteemed Veeraporn Nitiprapha and the translators Kong Rithdee, both quite, to me, are the entry points into Thai literature, Thai contemporary literature. And her two novels, Veera's two novels, titled The Descending Dynasty, I'm using the full title here that you just mentioned, The Descending Dynasty and the Memories of, yes?
Hello. Descending Century.
Descending Century. Descending Century and Memories of the Black Rose Cat. And the other one is A Blind Earthworm in the Labyrinth. And both are translated from Thai into English by Kong Rithdee. And both of them are sold out in the bookstore section. So please do check them out after this session if you feel inspired. And I've had the pleasure to know Kong this year from his other translated book for visual artist Araya Rasjat Miansok, and getting to know Veera from smoking cigarettes and having coffee in the morning in the past 2 days. So it has been a great pleasure just bouncing ideas around with these wonderful giants in Thai literature scene. So I think their profiles are already in here, but I'll still read through it a little bit just to give you a brief intro. Veeraporn Nitiprapha, it's magazine editor, copywriter, art director, creative director, fashion stylist, jewelry designer, and a writer. So she wears many hats and excel in all of them. You can see, just from her style. And Kong, he's the currently deputy director of the Thai Film Archive, also a columnist and a writer, as well as translator for Veera's two novels that we just mentioned, and a book of essays. So I would love to highlight the two books that the two translated book of Veera's, The Memories of the Black Rose Cat, and The Labyrinth, The Blind Earthworm in the Labyrinth. So I would like to read a little bit of a small, short excerpt just for you, in case you haven't read the book, just a little bit of an intro. So for The Blind Earthworm in the Labyrinth, this is the first one, right? The first novel. So on the day Chariya was born, her mother discovers her father having an affair with a traditional Thai dancer. From then on, Chariya's life is fated to carry the weight of her parents' disappointment. She and her sister grow up in a lush riverside town near the Thai capital, Bangkok, captivated by trashy romance novels, classical music, games of make-believe. When the laconic orphan Pran enters their world, he unwittingly lures his sister into a labyrinth of their own making as they each try to escape their intertwined fates. Sounds very saucy. I would highly recommend. And the blurb for Memories of the Black Rose Cat. When great-grandpa Duong immigrated from China to Siam as a young man in the early decades of the 20th century, he unwittingly brought with him a family curse. Spanning 3 generations of a Chinese Thai family in Thailand, Memories of the Black Rose Cat is an epic saga of immigrant life. In her characteristic magical realist style, Veeraporn Nitiprapha chronicles the family's adventures and tragedies against the backdrop of a tumultuous century to create a unique, vivid, and poignant portrayal of Chinese diaspora life. So just a bit of pointer so that we can go into the discussions and then you kind of have an idea about what we're talking about. So I would like to start this session. I would dive right into it. I've read 2 of the novels. I'm very excited to start asking questions. So this is a question for both the author and the translator. So in the 2 novels, there's always a house. We love houses in Southeast Asia. Our family house, a friend's house, the house where it all happened. We always have a house to refer back to. And a garden. So in Memories of the Black Rose Cat, it's the gray-green house under the chamcha trees. And in Earthworm, the Earthworm one, it's Charika's yellow house with its exuberant fauna, the gardens, charillas actually. And these houses tend to act as a nexus for memories, a point of concentration, a climax, or even declination, and also a portal to which the narratives of the inhabitants are reflected. So in your word, what is your definition of a house of memories? And what are some ways in which a house can become a mirror or a medium for reflection? That's a bit of an unwinding question, but feel free to take it wherever you want.
Normally, I don't do single concepts for one thing. You see, I'm just multi-people, multi-kind of person. So the house in the first book is the yellow house. That one, actually, I start writing at the age of 48, and I have to admit that I don't know how to write though. I have some idea for the second book, and I write the first book to find a way to write the second book. You understand what I mean? Sometimes it's not that out of the factory that you know what you're gonna do. I don't know what am I gonna do. So I write the first one first, and then I head into this kind of like strange idea of if you write something and then you put an empty space there, a blank space there, will the reader put their own idea in that blank automatically? Sort of, some words in the new generation, when you write email, you sort of writing like counting, counting. But then, when you write, you put like counting, and then you miss the I or the N, whatever, and then still makes sense to you. So, in that case, you put your own knowledge of the word or the sentence into the context, right? So I have this strange idea that why every main characters in the story speak their own thought. The Chariya, the lady, just don't speak her own thought. So I leave the blank space. And to make it work, I have to have her background, what the room inside of the woman, which is the yellow house. The yellow house that, explain who she is instead of she explaining who she is. Sort of, this lady is into, what can I say? She was in love with the first lover who dressed like Che Guevara. And then she thought she was, the fighter for justice, sort of things. The second one is through a novel, Do You Like Brahms, of François Sagan. She read the book, and then she loved the book, and then the guy read the book, so she loves him. Okay? And the third one is a fake reporter who just like, giving her story about the journey. I was into this war, and I was into that, this and that, and it's so exciting. I made her a Juliet, a madly in love woman, sort of. So the house in this place is doing 2 jobs. Her inner place, but also a prison, a curtain that blinds her of the reality, the good life, the house that she's been cooking, the house that she's been listening to music, the house with all the flowers and everything, something like that. So it's the double concept here. and that is the yellow, right? And the second novel, which is the real novel, the greenhouse. The greenhouse is actually great-grandpa Duong. He just come from China, migrate to Thailand, sort of. So he did business there and then sent all the money back to his home in China to buy land, property. You know, at that time, the only passive income is being a landlord. So the only good people, the only rich people is the people that doing nothing and get money, right? So while he working here, he bought a piece of land with a house in green, and that is supposed to be just like, what can I say, a hotel, not really a real house, but still it represents later after the World War II, a place that he had to stay forever because he lost all his land in China due to the communists. Due to the communists.
Yes, we take the blame for that.
Something like
Mea
that.
culpa.
So the house here is hope. The house here, the greenhouse, is not only the house, it's the hope, it's the meaning of being born to be human being, even, you know, of a man who has no space at all in the universe left, only that greenhouse. But still, at that time, I think the book is talking a lot about the post-war. So the first sentence in the book is that, you know, twice a day a train passed the house, which is that greenhouse. I never mentioned where from and where to. So it's the train of nowhere that running past the house. So the house here has another meaning of the, I think, utopia. After the World War, people are obsessed with the utopia, kind of like what can I say, the perfect land, the perfect country, the perfect human being. Even at that time after the war, we have West Germany, we have East Germany, we have South Korea, North Korea, we had Israel. Why I mentioned Israel, we have, you know, all the problem in the world that's coming up from that time. And so why the train passed that house, everything in the house start shaking and misplaced. So the mother of the house always pass by and rearrange everything again. So the double meanings here is, you know, the utopia too. While you think that you have the perfect place to stay, there's something unseen behind that shaking everything in your country, sort of.
I think I love the idea that, you know, the house is a place of belonging, right? We all want to go back to a home, to a house. But then, you know, how precarious that concept is. You know, a house can break down, a house can be abandoned, a house can disappear, and, you know, shaken by all of these forces that we cannot control. Right? So the concept of houses and belonging and identity, I think also in Southeast Asia is very tied to the land and how we're connected to the land, right? Like the house is a representation of what land means to us, like a sense of belonging.
More than that, it's our identity too, who we are. You know, I cannot rid of my being Chinese. I born in Thailand, I speak Thai, I cannot speak Chinese, but I'm Chinese, and what Chinese in me? What is it? Just the fair skin or the slit eyes or what? What am I? We share the same eyes.
Beautiful eyes. So I would like to ask Kong, because there are passages about the houses in the book, and it's very, I would say, very intricately described. Like not to bring a stereotype, but like the house is described in great detail. So how do you kind of haggle with that as a translator?
Well, as a translator, I try not to overanalyze the meaning of the text that I'm working on. Sometimes I try to approach a text as if it is as if it was a picture. And for example, I don't know, I'm not very good at drawing, but if you look at a picture and you just trace the line along the original picture, then you have a copy of that picture. So sometimes, as a translator, I sort of apply that mentality into the process. I try not to overthink about the text. Of course, I think about it, maybe later, maybe at the end of the day, maybe in my dream or the next day. But while I am actually translating the text, I try to picture myself doing this outlining thing of the original photo and try to create a replica or the second copy of the original as accurate to the original as possible. So the house, yes, in both books, the first paragraph of both books begins with the description of the house, which will become like a central theme in both stories. So I think, I don't want to say that this is a Southeast Asian thing, but maybe it is, I don't know, everything revolves around a house.
Italian too.
Sorry?
The Italian too.
Yes, and if you think about it, a house is like a heart. You describe a house with rooms, like your heart with different rooms, with different chambers. And Veeraporn also has already talked about how a house can serve as a metaphor for roots, for your place in the world. And in both books, I think the characters are trying to carve out their own spaces in the world. They're trying to find where they actually belong in the world, because everywhere they go, they feel adrift, they feel like they are lost. So to have a house, I think, is to have a root. To have a house means you belong somewhere in the world. And I don't know. Again, I think about all of this after the process of translation. While I'm doing it, I was preoccupied with, working on the text and sticking close to the actual objectivity of the text.
Yeah, so I think
He never called me. I was expecting calls. He never called me.
well, we'll get to the process later. You can tell us all about the drama that unfolds afterwards. So yeah, I mean, like a lot of things happen in hindsight, right? Like we look back and it's like, oh, that was how it was. And I think I remember an article I read recently about how they discover the heart of a blue whale. And they talk about how the heart of a blue whale is the size of a house. And there are many valves in there and there are many crevices. And it's, think about the room and the house as a heart. I think when I hear you talking, I would just think about that image. Beautiful. So from houses, and we have a very detailed description of the houses, and then the rooms in it, what goes into those rooms, what go in and out of those rooms, and the room become the connection between world. It becomes like the sort of like drawing from the title of the talk, like the word labyrinth, right? And when I would hear the word labyrinth, like I think about the narrative structure in your novels. You don't do linear. Like that's one thing I pick up 2 chapters into the novel. I was like, where am I in the course of history? Like, where am I right now? So you tend to crisscross, you hop, you skip, you jump, you revert back on, past, present, future don't matter. Within one chapter, we have the past, the present, and the future, and then the past again. And we jump from characters to characters, epochs to epochs, cities to cities within the span of paragraphs. So what, I'm very curious, what attracts you about this non-linear narrative flow? And I mean, I think this is very difficult to do, to keep a clear mind of where and what happened. So what are some techniques that you have used to like anchor yourself as you explore and you go into different directions and you know how to get back? So would love to hear that experience from you.
Because I'm working around the things called illusion. I'm working around the things like history, what made us what we are, who we are. So I kind of like interested in how we learn about something. Like, for example, somebody might say, have you read The Black Rose Cat? And then you just, okay, no. And then you forgot about it. And then the other day you went to the bookshop and then you find the book. Oh, this is interesting. You buy, you put it there. And then another day you went to the last page. Oh, this is a 60-ish woman, the writer, a cat woman. Okay. Then you come back and read the first chapter, second chapter, third chapter, and then you read my interview and blah, blah, blah. And then you go back and read the rest. When did we get to know each other? Is it the first time that someone mentioned the book, or the time that you read about my bio at the back? If the bio at the back, then you knew me from the first cat woman when you were 10. Okay, cat women, the same type, sort of thing like that. How we get to know things. We get to know things non-linear. We never know things, in straight line like that, in sequence, the first chapter, the second chapter. So that's one thing that I came to write something that non-linear at the first place. Another thing is that I love people to go like very, very blur, very, very, you lost track. What can I say? If you can blur the timeline, then the history will be here to, you understand what I mean?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
If you said, no, this is the history, it's back there 20 years ago. But the mean that I'm writing this because it's still here, like I said. What's happening at the post-war is still here at this very moment. So what I'm doing, then I blur the timeline. When I blur the timeline, I can blur the space too. If I can. I don't know if I can. You have to tell me, whether it works or not, because I'm the writer, I'm not the reader.
Well, I mean, as a reader, I was definitely blurred. That's for sure.
And the rest, I think if you become blur at the beginning, then you mind, you come into the book very lost. So you all mind. You have your own idea. So
Yes,
I'm gonna pull you here.
we're just lost in your labyrinth. That's for sure.
Yes.
But also,
Like
so
that.
how do you keep track of all of these these encounter, these memories overlapping one another, countering one another even?
Actually,
as a writer, I mean.
Actually, when I first working, I just throw everything onto the paper, and the computer, and then no paper anymore.
You have a diagram to help you.
Yes, I have my map. I do. I have timeline. The second book is just like almost 100 years, so the timeline just cross the room, just like that. And then you rearrange it. You just pull this, like that. And then you rearrange everything, you kill something, you don't like this, you don't like that, you like this, you put things in, you rearrange it. I think the first draft will be 1 year only. But then another 2 or 3 years, then that is the rearranging, the killing people, and then
There's a lot of death in these two novels. If you haven't picked it up by now, no spoiler, but there's a lot of death. just something to look forward to. So I'd like to ask Kong, because in English it's a tense-based language, right? We have past, present, future tense, and a bunch of tenses that apparently are not using, but it's grammatically correct. So how do you deal with this narrative? Because in Thai as well as Vietnamese, I think Bahasa as well, there's not a strong sense of temporality in the language. We don't conjugate verbs in that sense. We just put words next to each other to, talk about time when something happened. So how do you kind of bridge that gap?
Yes, you're right. I think the structural foundation of the Thai language, and of course the Vietnamese, as you mentioned, and maybe other Asian languages as well, and English are very different. The tense, yes, there's no tense in the Thai language. You can talk about an event of yesterday as if, without any marker to tell people that, okay, it's yesterday, but somehow you know that it was an event of yesterday. So yes, I think this affects the way we think about a text, as a Thai person. So in English, yes, sometimes it is a problem. Sometimes you have to make sure which section of the timeline in the story that she is describing. In fact, it's not that difficult to identify which part of the story we are right now as we're reading the book. But to give the same sense to the audience sometimes, yes, it can be, it has to be worked out, But I would say that the more difficult part of translating the Thai language into English, the tense is one thing, but it has a lot to do with, well, actually many things, many structural details. For example, punctuation. There's no punctuation in the Thai language. You don't have a full stop. You don't know when a sentence begins and where it ends. In English, of course, you have the start and the end of a sentence. But in Thai, you can combine two sentences. You can make it 3 or 4 sentences. Whereas in English, you know exactly where you have to start and where you have to stop. So punctuation is another thing. The most difficult aspect, especially for Veeraporn, I think, is the smallest unit of language, which is words. In the Thai language, you can construct words. You have, I don't know the linguistic terms that describe this, but you have the smallest unit, which is word, right? And then you can combine different words and to create a new word.
I think it's called like agglutinative. It's like when you can gel words together to create like a large.
Yes, and this is
mega words.
Yeah, and this is not even a writer's thing to do. Like a person, anybody can do this. But Veeraporn takes it to the extreme. How the way she.
What is the longest word that you've ever encountered in a novel?
Like for example, I talked about this a few times to students. So in Thai, you cannot have, in English, you cannot have like 5 verbs together, right? In a row, you cannot have 5 verbs. Go, work, fly, for example. You cannot do that. It is grammatically incorrect, right? But in Thai, it's possible to have 5 verbs. Together, yes, to accentuate that action, to highlight the intensity of the actual the action that you are describing. For example, fly, flutter, soar. For example, fly, flutter, soar. They mean more or less the same thing, right? Fly is normal, soar is a little bit more intense, and then flutter is more poetic, for instance. So fly, flutter, soar. You cannot have these 3 verbs all together in an English sentence, but in Thai it's possible. You can do that, and it works. I mean, it's kind of beautiful if you know the right way to do it, and the reader will not object that, oh, this is wrong. It's okay, because as I said, everybody does this. It depends on how you do it, and Veeraporn does that quite a lot. So in English, how would you say fly, flutter, soar in one sentence? Because
did you think about this when you were writing it in Thai?
Yes. No. I never thought about, translating at all. I just, focus on what I'm doing. But I think at one moment, we too don't feel anything single. At this very moment, you feel, okay, it's cold, and the light is too bright, and the audience is boring, and blah blah blah. You think about 5 things, you feel about 10 things at a time. That's why I put everything in. So you don't miss a thing.
Yes, we have to have it all, right? All or nothing. So it's a good thing that we're talking about words formation and melodies, because I would love for you to read an excerpt in Thai, because I think it's very rare that we get to hear the novel in its original language, read by its writer, no less. So I would like to propose that we've selected an excerpt. So Veeraporn's going to read it in Thai, and I think Kong, I would like you to read it in English, just for the audience to hear the difference and like the flow of the languages. So
Okay, it's gonna be very short.
it's not a whole chapter. Don't worry. It's
แต่ทวดตรงเป็นอะไรเหรอยายเขาเรียกหัวใจสลาย แล้วดาวก็ชอบนึกภาพแต่ทวดตรงเขาเช่นนั้นชายชราผู้ซึ่งมีมือขวาวางอยู่บนอกซ้ายเวลาเดินคอยเทินประคองหัวใจแตกดานข้างในไม่ให้ร่วงหล่นและเศษเสี้ยวพวกนั้นยังกระทบส่งเสียงกรุ้งกริ้งออกมาเบาๆทุกย่างก้าวทุกคนในบ้านก็เช่นกันมองเห็นหัวใจสลายของเขาแจ่มกระจ่างในดวงตาที่เส้นขอบวงเริ่มจางเป็นสีเทาเข้มในริมฝีปากเม้มริกสันที่เอาแต่กล้ำกลืนถ้อยคำไม่อาจเล่ากลับลงไปในลมบีดคลางรวดร้าวที่ซ่อนอยู่ในทอดถอนหายใจซ้ำๆในบ้านที่ค่อยๆเย็นและชื้นและมืดมนลงทุกขณะทุกคนตระหนักว่าเขาสูญเสียสาหัสแต่ไม่มีใครเลยจะเข้าใจว่ามันไม่ใช่เงินทองไม่ใช่ทรัพย์สินไม่ใช่กระผีกริ้นผืนปฐพีที่นับได้เป็นตารางกิโลเมตรไม่ใช่ครอบครัวอีกครอบครัวที่ถูกริบหายไม่อาจกระทั่งรับรู้ความเป็นไปในทางปฏิวัติเชี่ยวกราบหากคือที่มั่นเล็กจ้อยเราฝุ่นผลในจักรวาลว้างของคนคนหนึ่งคือหวังเดี่ยวดายที่ยึดโยงเขาไว้กับลมหายใจคือฝันประโลมที่พาเขาฟันฝ่าทุกยากขมขื่นที่ชีวิตหยิบยื่นให้ไปจนถึงอีกฟากฝั่งคือหมายความของการเกิดมาดำรงอยู่และสูญหายคือสิ้นเนื้อประดาตัวทางจิตวิญญาณคือล่มจนจำนมล่มล้างและติดค้างชั่วลูกชั่วหลานชั่วกับกันบนแผ่นดินแปลกหน้าล้าหลังที่ไม่ใช่ของตน
ขออนุญาตนะครับ please allow me the heart doesn't really break but it hurts it hurts with such an unbearable intensity that you cannot move your body as if the pain might shatter something inside you and all you can do is lie down and not move now imagine great grandpa Tong walking around with his right hand over the left side of his chest to prevent the splintered pieces of his heart from falling all over the place like shards of glass. Even so, the pieces still made a jingling sound that escaped from his body with every step he took. Everyone in the house, too, could see Great-Grandpa Tong's shattered heart with clarity. They saw it in his eyes, the circular edges of which became an increasingly bitter gray color, in his pursed lips that trembled as he swallowed unspoken words, never letting them slip out. In the Milky Way of his freckles that turned more opaque with every passing day. In the pain, raspy wheezing as he sighed and sighed. In the house that became chillier, damper, darker. Everyone knew he had lost something, but no one understood what he had lost. Everyone knew he had lost something, but no one understood that what he had lost was neither money nor fortune, neither strips of land measurable in square kilometers, nor his other family confiscated by history and swept away by the implacable currents of the revolution. What he had lost, a tiny stronghold, as tiny as a speck of dust in the vast universe of his own existence, the hope that tethered him to his own breath, a dream that had consoled him as he hacked his path through the dank misery and cold hardships that life had dealt him. What he had lost was the meaning of why he had been born and why he had lived. His loss was akin to a spiritual bankruptcy that impoverished his soul, defeating and destroying him. And now he owed his offspring and their offspring a debt he could never repay, a debt he would have to carry into the afterlife and through eternity, a debt incurred on this stranger's land that was not his home.
I'll just let that marinate for a second. Yeah. So So yes, you hear the differences, right? Like how the two languages unfold, you know, navigates the space and our eardrums, you know, the labyrinths of our minds. And I think, you know, there's this beauty in both versions. I think, you know, like, I think because...
No, mine is better.
Yes.
You all have to learn Thai and, you know, read the original.
Oh, I think after this sessions, I hope someone here will pick up the interest and we'll have more Thai speakers or Thai readers who can translate directly from Thai. I think that will be the great challenge that we're going to have. So I want to go back to the story because there are some other aspects that I want to kind of unpack. So there's a wonderful trope in Asian literature or Southeast Asian literature, the dysfunctional family. You know, how our family builds and breaks us, right? Most often time break us, but you know. So you tend to use the figure of a dysfunctional family and its members. So like the black sheep of the family, the prodigal son, the hysterical wife, the cheating husband, the unborn baby. So all of these different characters that make a family, that constitute a dysfunctional family. And this dysfunctional family become like a sort of a base canvas, right? When you talk about the blank space, and you know these characters start filling in different part of the blank space. And but then it's not only about the family; it's about the nations, about the country, because the family unit tend to reflect or to reproduce or to intensify what's going on in the country, right? With the nation-building narratives. So what are your thoughts, both of you, as a writer and translator, when you're working with this text, you know, on the family and the relationship of this family to the nation or nations with which it's, you know, influencing the family?
I think the problem of the world is that, you know, we all know the same thing. We already know it. We don't feel it. You know what I mean? Like inequality. Okay, sorry. Inequality, you know, is a bad thing. You know, you learn since you were young, but it's still happening everywhere. So, what I'm doing is that trying to get the reader related to something that's happening to them directly, the family, being an outsider, being, you know, the leftover. I'm sorry if you follow what's happening in Thailand for a while, then you will see that we are all outsider of our own lives there. You know what I mean? So how am I going to say this? How am I going to put about, you know, the nation and then be put in jail? No, I make a story about the family. I make a story about lovers. I make a story about people that disconnected with their own lives, their own reality, their own whatever nation. Of course, we are not there. We there, but we are not there. So I don't have the ambition to write something, you know, really big, like saying the government blah blah blah, and then I be put in jail, and nobody cares. Nobody even listen or read it. Yeah, and you record it. And you record it.
There's confidentiality clause, right? Yeah. So okay. So and what about you, Kong? Because I know you contribute for columns and you write about politics quite a lot as well in Thailand. So when you translate these aspects, what thoughts come up for you during the process?
I think both the dysfunctional family trope and the genre of the story. Okay. I focus on the first one, The Blind Earthworm in the Labyrinth. The book is very popular in Thailand. It was hugely popular when it came out in Thailand. Are you surprised? I mean, because I have a feeling it caught you by surprise with such success.
No, I know I'm good. I know I already know since I was born I'm good.
Because The Blind Earthworm in the Labyrinth, if you ask me, it's an upgraded version of a popular Thai soap opera. You know, she sticks to the genre of soap opera, which is, okay, a very mainstream, a very populist genre. But the way she treats that genre, the way she upgrades it, well, upgrade is maybe not the right word, but the way she plays around with the tradition of the genre and how she subverts the familiar elements in the dysfunctional family trope and the soap opera genre, and twist it and give it a new reading, give it a political angle, a slightly political angle, and a slightly historical, sociological angle. I think that's what's special about the first book. You know, if you read it straight, and I believe that quite a lot of readers really, really enjoy the book because they take it straightforwardly as a beautiful soap opera, you know, like love triangle and, you know, heartbreaks and two sisters loving the same man, you know. But, as I said, the sophistication in her prose and the elegance with which she applies to this age-old Thai genre makes the book different from what it could have been if she decided to do like a straightforward soap opera. So I think a lot of people were surprised that the book was such a huge success because it's not an easy read, as you mentioned before, the non-chronological nature of the narrative, right? But I guess that a lot of readers can live with that because the essence of it, the essence is the melodrama that we all grow up with. We were all raised from the staple of you know, family drama,
telenovelas, you know, we
the
grew up
figure
with
of
that.
the mother and the bad father, and you know how sisters, the infighting between sisters and family dysfunction. All these elements, Veeraporn has found a new way to cook it and to make it fresh. That's how I read the because you asked about the genre, the family dysfunction and the soap opera. Yes.
I have to add here though, if you are familiar with Thailand politics, you know, during the past 20 years, our country divided into two, you know, the red shirt and the yellow shirt and, you know, whatever shirt, you know, something like that. And we have rallies before, we have rallies all the time, you know, in town. So it's very soap opera, you know. It's very melodrama. People can go, get out! And then cry, you know, and then, you know what I mean? It's melodrama there. And then now, Kun Thaksin is back, and everybody's just like...
And then now everyone loves each other for a moment.
Yeah, it's just like what a country we have.
I love these protest melodrama because in my country we're not allowed to protest. This is not recorded, right?
You can come to Thailand. You can come to Thailand. We're gonna have, you know.
Yeah, you get put in jail for writing. I get put in jail for going to protest. So there you go. You know, I love my government. Like, please don't.
Communists will win.
So I'm glad you mentioned melodrama because there's one element in telenovelas and any kind of soap opera on TV, death. You know, death becomes the drama. Death becomes all of us, right? And some people die in melodrama and they come back for some reasons. They just resurrect like Jesus. But so death, and another spoiler, all of the characters in her novels die. One gruesome way after another, very carefully planned. I think you planned their death as much as you planned the structure of the novel. But they all die. So it's like the ex machina in your novel. It's like it solves all the problems. Just kill them off. So why did you decide to kill all of them? And what are the risks, if any, or the benefits of ending the life of a character in a novel?
It's
There are some in the novel that I was like, I wish that one had survived because he was a good person. But no, they all died.
They all died. No. Actually, yeah, I like to play with my readers too. You see, some people in the story, not all of them die inside the story. They die later, 10 years later, 20 years later. But I put there, see, dying, the death is the ending. So that means what's happening in the story will end eventually. It will stop one day if you live long enough, right? And that's it. And another thing is that I'm obsessed of killing people. You see, you're a writer, they pay you so low, and you have this advantage of you can kill anybody at all in whatever way you wish. And that is, I think that is the point I become a writer. I really have fun time. But in some characters, like in the second book, I think the way of dying is also reflecting the living too. So it's kind of like a conclusion of the lives of the characters. Like one character die inside an ice cube.
Frozen to death.
Frozen to death. And then he was the guy that, migrated from China. So he's stuck there in the middle of an ice cube, freeze to death in the stranger land, like that. So I really enjoy prepare method of killing each. I'm not, just do it like that. I really love it.
No, I'm glad you take so much pleasure in it because it pains us, what pains me to read some of these characters and how they die. And I was like, oh my God, their life is hard enough already. They can't even get any rest.
And the guy that he mentioned, that guy, I met him so beautiful, the very good man, the best man in the world. And then I killed him. But actually, he died outside the story. Anyway, but I'd like you to see him die. Anyway, I'm talking about inequality. I'm talking about the boy that the mother doesn't love. I'm talking about the people that, totally outsider of his own life. So I swore, when I was writing, I swore I'm going to make you come out of the last page broken into pieces. And I laughed. I enjoy that.
I'm in tears right now, but...
Well, sometimes you have to do what you have to do, or don't write. If you write, you kill the reader too. You kill the character. You kill everybody. I'm gonna die happily.
Yeah, and I think Kong, I want to ask, because there's a sense of not also killing, but this is a different kind of killing. We all kill our darling, right? For translation, for writing, there's a point you need to stop. Kill your darling. So there's that sentence. I wonder if kill your darling, that's like an expression. It's like when you need to stop something. So she killed her darlings in the novels. All of her darlings gone by the end of it. So what emotions or what memories come up for you during the translation of these deaths, Do you feel that they're unfair?
I think as a translator, you read the text and of course, you try to understand the story, but the more important thing is you have to try to understand the emotion that each passage, each chapter is trying to project. So that's the narrative, that's the story, and that's the emotion, that's the tone, that's the color, that's the sentiment attached to every paragraph. I think as a translator, you interpret the text, the words, but you have to interpret the emotion of the writer and of the reader who's going through the same passage. So let's say about all these death in the book. Of course, with the text, you just describe what she's describing, right? But there are different kinds of death in the book. There's the tragic death, there's the ironic death, there's the devastating death, There's death that comes with heartbreak. There's death that comes with beauty. There's death that comes with unfinished longing. You just have to understand or try to understand what she's trying to get at. And hopefully I get it right, or most of them right. And then you try to transmit those nuances, those different nature of death into the English text. So if I read some of the passages and I believe that, okay, this is the part that she wants to make people cry. I know it because I almost cry, for instance. So I have to make sure that, okay, in the English text, the reader will come close to tears. In a different part, with this death, she wants to make people chuckle. I have to make sure that, okay, the reader of the English text will know that this is not meant as a tragic death, but it's ironic, it's sarcastic, it's a mocking of something. So to convey the emotional truth of the story is as important or even more important as to convey the meaning of the text itself.
So I think that's it's a really beautiful way of kind of summarizing it up, because we all die, but we die differently. Right?
We die different.
Yeah. So
and then eventually we die.
it's a very uplifting thing to talk about death, because we all get there. But how we get there and how we end differently, I think it speaks a lot about life as well. Like how we lived our life is reflected in our death, and vice versa. I just got the 10-minute sign from the volunteer team, so I would like to take this opportunity to thank our speakers again for their delightful conversation, and then we open up for Q&A. So any burning questions, that you would like to ask our speakers, here's your chance. Yes.
Please.
Ms. Veeraporn, I'm intrigued by the non-chronological style of the novel, in which you deliberately intend to confuse the reader. My question is, how did you arrive at the conclusion that this would be the best way to invite the readers into your story? What considerations did you take in making that decision?
I don't get him.
So what why did you come to the decision to confuse the readers? Do you think it's the best way for them to enter the story?
No, I'm not really enjoy confusing the reader, actually. But see, these days you have internet, you have phone, you have MP5, you have everything on, and you're trying to read a book. See, and that is different from my time. We only read. So what I'm doing is just pull your attention. When you're confused, you're gonna close down. You're gonna switch off this and that and this and that and concentrate. That's one thing. Another thing is that I like you to come into my world. This is my world. So the world that's full of different people, not the people that you know. Or maybe you might know, something like that. So I'm creating a world by switching things around. You tend to, at the very first chapter, you find yourself like, I almost there, but not quite. I almost understand what she's saying, but what? And then on the third and the fourth, you're going to understand what is going on there. So that's one way, though. I'm doing experimental. I start writing at the age of 48, very late. I don't know how to write. I didn't learn how to write. I don't read how to write. I don't care. I just write. And then I'm trying to figure out how am I going to create my way of connecting to people like that. So it might be confusing. I'm the kind of confusing people. So that is. Am I answering?
Thank you for the questions. Do we have time? Yes, Adriana.
Hi. I feel you left us with a bit of a cliffhanger there with the fly, flutter, soar. I would like to ask the translator, how did you resolve that conundrum? And also the author, are you satisfied with that solution?
I can't remember.
Let the drama begin, huh?
I cannot really remember how I
There's going to be a
solved that
war
question
yet.
because, you know, there are like, I don't know if like 100 incidents like this in the course of the book because, as I said before, it's how Thai people conjure up new words by putting them together. So I think the best way to do it is, of course, again, not just focusing on any particular words, but to arrive at the conclusion, okay, what does she really want to convey in that particular sentence? The intensity of the feeling of the particular sentence, and then you try to come close to that. So for this soar, fly, flutter, I can't remember, but maybe I choose to. Probably I choose to and try to structure the sentence in a way that, okay, the reader knows that it's more than just fly. And it's not just fluttering. It's a combination of different verbs to arrive at a new meaning. Or not a new meaning, but to highlight the degree of feelings, of the emotion that the sentence is trying to carry. It happens all the time in the course of the book. And กระโดดโลดเต้น, in Thai you can say jump, dance, fly. In altogether, jump, dance, fly. And so yeah, again, you have to figure out a way to have the whole sentence directing at that particular emotion or particular action by combining different words. Yeah.
And then you ask, am I happy?
Are you?
You know the word, the phrase, the author is dead. Yes. My job's done at the last page in Thai. And then I have nothing to do whatsoever if this become English or Chinese or whatever. It will be in Tagalog, it will be in Chinese, it will be in a lot of languages in the future. It will be film too. It will be music too. Some people write some song for the book too. It's not my job. It's not even my job to be happy or not happy. I just cut myself off. I'm sorry. I have to be like that or else. Actually, I'm happy to see it, another life. You know what I mean? This is another life, the English life, the Chinese life. And that's how the book grows. But you cannot have it exactly like what you wrote, never. It cannot. It's just the way it is. It cannot. So why I'm just pounding around, screaming, crying, this is not my book, he's transferring it to some monster, blah, blah, blah. It's not. It has another life and you should be happy. You should be very, very happy. And then I just keep myself calm. Okay, you're going to be okay. Let's sit and wait for the reviews. It's got some really good reviews internationally, and that is my happiness.
Just to add a little bit, yesterday I think Chris Andrews put it very nicely about, when you cannot solve the riddle of one or two words in a sentence or in a paragraph, when you find an untranslatable phrase or word, the way to do it is to redefine the parameters of that sentence or that paragraph, instead of trying to fix that one word that you cannot crack, that one untranslatable, cultural conundrum disguised as a word. Then you shift the whole. You redefine the parameters. You redefine the borders of that sentence or that paragraph, and then you work around that. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question. So, Adriana, would you like to? Because you had your hands up. One last question.
It'll be very quick. And it's a question from Kong, actually, from the translation perspective. Let's imagine the hypothetical bilingual reader who can understand and read in the original, and then they read the translated version. I'm just curious about what your response or how you think or reflect upon if this said bilingual reader tells you like, the translation was very different, or like, says something that perhaps isn't too favorable or a bit critical about the translation. I mean, how do we, I guess I'm curious about how we insert people who actually understand both versions in discourse or a little reflections on translation and the act of translation.
Luckily I have never encountered that reader. But I'm sure there are people who have read both versions. I'm sure there are, especially academics. Chulalongkorn University, I think they pore over every sentence. And so far, no bad comments. But I think it's fine. If you look at, for example, like Don Quixote, how many translated versions of that?
Yes.
Like at least 20 versions of Don Quixote, and I've read some of them. And you look at the first paragraph of the 20 versions of Don Quixote, and they are not the same at all.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder, how could you do that? I suppose that the Spanish and the English are more or less, okay, they're not the same language, not even the same roots, but they are like European languages, right? Both Spanish and English. So how come you have 20 versions of Don Quixote, and even the first sentence, none of them read the same? And some of them are totally different. So I believe it's fine if someone wants to tackle this book again, the Thai text, and rework on what I've already done. I think it's fine. I think that's how language evolves. That's how, like Veeraporn said, she's happy to have, for her book to have a new life. Then if her book will continue to have 9 lives, 10 lives, I think it's fine.
I think I met some people too that mentioned this, that it's not the same, blah blah blah. I said, how can it be same? You have to admit this first, and then let it go. If you don't want it to be altered, if you don't want it to be changed here and there, then keep it for yourself. Sleep on it, and the world have to learn Thai to read me, and that I'll be very happy, very center of the universe. I'm not. So what's happening is just, let go. It has to be like this. And I can read English, and that's my luck. But when it's translated into Chinese or Tagalog, then, I'm going to be totally blank. Then what?
I don't think it has been translated into Bahasa or any languages in Malaysia yet, right?
I wish I hope.
If anyone here wants to tackle these, please feel free.
I want it to be in all languages, of course. Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind if it's going to lose, it's essential or whatever. I don't mind. Yeah.
Well, I think we're out of time. We're just at 12. So I would like to thank Veeraporn and Kong again for your
Thank you so much.
thoughts and the books.